to talk to us about their process and the prototypes, the various prototypes that they developed. We have with us Bruno Fávero from EOS Fatos, Sergio Spagnuolo from Nucleo Journalism, and Borja Lozano from Newtral.
Hi, I'm Bruno. I'm the Innovation Director at EOS Fatos, and I'm here to talk, as Lakshmi said, about, it's okay, but I can control it. I'm here to talk about NoticIA. So NoticIA is a collaboration between EOS Fatos, the fact-checking organization from Brazil that I work for, Newtral, media startup from Spain, and Nucleo, a data-driven tech news website also based in Brazil. Oh, actually, I'll need you to go to the next slide because it's not working anymore.
So try now if it's working right now.
Yeah, no, it's working.
Okay.
It's working.
Okay,
thank you. So with NoticIA, we were trying to answer this question. After all the ChatGPT craziness, how can newsrooms incorporate LLMs safely and effectively and deploy chatbots in that way to LLM chatbots? And we were concerned about a few aspects of LLMs. Famously, they are unreliable and prone to hallucinating. They can be super hard to update and to retrain, and super expensive as well. And they often lack transparency. No one knows exactly what data was used to train some of the most prominent LLMs. So we came across an approach that is called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And it's basically a framework that allows you to connect LLMs to an external knowledge base. So instead of relying on its original training, you can force the LLM to use this external source when answering questions. And it helps solve many of the problems that I just mentioned. So it minimizes hallucinations. It's much easier to update because you don't need to actually train the LLM again. It allows you to show the sources that are used in the answer you're providing, and it's relatively easy to implement. So the NoticIA project has two main components. The first one is knowledge sharing, and the second one is applying it to actual products. So in the knowledge sharing front, we set up a website, NoticIA, in which we share blog posts, tutorials, and references to help other news organizations implement their own AI chatbots. We also have a GitHub repo in which we share basic code for newsrooms to get started with their own AI chatbots. And again, the second sort of arm of this project is applying it to products. And before passing to my colleagues, I'm talking about Fatima GPT, the product that EOS Fatos developed. So Fatima is a chatbot that EOS Fatos launched on WhatsApp and Telegram, and it exists since 2019. And the idea was to allow users to, or to help users fact check content they receive online. It's been super popular and a very successful project for us. It has over 70,000 users since it was launched, and millions of messages received and sent. And this is how it used to work. So it took the user query, extracted keywords, and then used them to perform a search on EOS Fatos database. And then it would return relevant links. So if you ask a question, or if you ask a question like, can FANOT cure COVID-19? It would answer, I found these links that may be relevant, and then provide you with a summary of an article that we published and a link for you to access it. And Fatima GPT is an upgrade to that incorporates LLMs to Fatima's pipeline. And what you get is that you go from from using a keyword-based search and providing pre-programmed answers to using semantic search that yields more relevant results, and giving natural sound replies that can answer the question directly. So if you ask the same question now to Fatima GPT, can Fenoti cure COVID-19? It says there's no scientific evidence that Fenoti cures COVID-19, and then it provides you with the evidence and the sources that were used. So we launched a public beta in November on WhatsApp, Telegram, and as a web app. More than 1,000 users across those platforms have tested it, and we're using it to collect feedback from users and improve the product. Now I'm passing it to my colleague Borja from Newtral, who will talk about the products that they developed.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Hello, I'm Borja Lozano. I'm a machine learning engineer at Newtral. And as my colleagues, we've been integrating the power of LLMs into our systems, large language models. And today I'm going to present you our two latest chatbots, which are Programmia and Newtral chatbot, which name is yet to be decided. Like, we are not that boring to name it like that. Programmia is a chatbot to compare electoral proposals. It was born amidst an unexpected electoral advance. Like, as you may know, in Spain, we have our elections due to November, but it was rescheduled to July. So with just under 2 months, it was really difficult for people who were voting to really skim through the electoral proposals of each different party, mainly because it tends to be really lengthy and complex. And additionally, it's always very hard to compare head-to-head these electoral programs because they vary in vocabulary, in structure. Like, different parties might refer to kind of the same thing in different terms. So our goal was to ease the access to this critical information and to help voters understand the difference between the electoral programs. We achieved this by designing a neural retrieval augmented system that was grounded in a political taxonomy that we developed in-house. Basically, what we did was to create a hierarchy of topics, political topics. Then we annotated each of the political proposals of all the parties with those topics. And if in first time, when a user asks anything, we select the most relevant topics for the user and retrieve the questions. So this system allowed us to select the relevant electoral proposals tailored to the user information needs. So in the weeks of the elections, like right before them, we launched the program, and we had more than 50,000 unique queries. And what was most important is that we help our users access the information in the format they needed. Like, they could, for example, ask about just one political party, and things about like economy. They could ask, like, if I'm a teacher, what political parties might give me something to compagine in my life with work. So yeah. We are also developing.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it's not changing the slides.
It's not changing the slides.
Slides not passing. No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. My bad. Okay. Is it now? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry for that. Well, let me just wrap up. We are also in the process of developing a multilingual fact-checking chatbot. In today's world, it's really hard to distinguish between truth and falsehood. It's getting increasingly challenging. So we're developing a chatbot which is able to search through thousands of fact checks and determine if something that a user has asked is already being verified. If it has, the tool is able to explain why it's verified and if it's true or false, whatever they're asking. We can mainly do this because we are using a retrieval augmented system, and we focus a lot in building a good semantic search that's able to retrieve the good evidence, the correct evidence to support the claim that the user might need. We're also putting a lot of effort in linking each piece of evidence to its source, so people can go in depth more about the topics they want to research. And now I'm going to pass it to Sergio to talk about Nucleo GPT.
Thank you, Borja. Thank you, Bruno. Nucleo GPT is a chatbot that we developed for Nucleo, and it's available exclusively for our subscribers. We launched it in August 2023, And we learned a lot from our partners. We had a somewhat different approach than Newtral and Fatos used, but we learned a lot from them. We were mostly worried about shipping the product first and then refining it. Their product, their chatbots are a bit more sophisticated than what we did, but we were concerned about launching it first and testing it out with our users. So we start to experiment with AI in January. Then we advanced to test OpenAI's LLM in April. And then we decided to create a policy to guide our use of artificial intelligence, especially for content, but also for our chatbot, for Nucleo. We received an ICFGA grant for development of this project. And also, we started this fellowship around June. In August, we started internal testings and launched a beta version in September. And now in December, we can say we are putting this out for the public in general, not only subscribers. We developed our backend in Python, as well as the modeling and the data wrangling, gathering the data, all the cron jobs, everything was made in Python. We started testing with GPT-3 model, but then we advanced it to use GPT-4, and we switched it just a couple of weeks ago to GPT-4 Turbo. We developed a specific widget, a front-end widget based on React that we will make available for everyone as open source soon. We are worried about hallucinations and linguistic barriers, specifically linguistic barrier, because most of the models are trained in English, or the bulk of it are trained in English. We are worried about the curation of the database and operational costs as well, as our colleagues did here. But we specifically worry about data anonymity and operation and response time of the chatbot, which was made better with GPT-4 Turbo. As I mentioned, we had a somewhat different approach than our partners. We used GPT-4 3 times in our process. We also use a vector database as they did, but we are using LangChain instead of RAG. I think we'll plan on switching in the future, but for now we are using a somewhat different approach. We learned a lot with them, and maybe we'll switch in the future. And finally, the lessons learned with all this. This is a collective. It's a collective finding of all 3 organizations part of this project, that OpenAI is still ahead. Some alternatives like Llama and Falcon are getting better as well, but it's hard to compete with OpenAI, which was the first and also the best one that we find. And they made their API costs cheaper recently as well, which makes it more attractive to use their API. Another lesson is transparency. We always have to be transparent about the way we are using that, or where the information comes from, or the models and the strategy we are using behind those bots. We cannot just put a chatbot out there without telling our readers and users what we are doing with it and how it is trained. Always ask for feedback. I think that this is one of the most important lessons that we learned. Like, feedback is very key for a success of a chatbot product in journalism specifically, but I think everywhere. And also test methodically the chatbots that you're using. We did a lot of testing. I tested Fatima, the Fatos chatbot. I tested other chatbots. I tested my own chatbot with against a series of questions. And I think it makes a safer and more reliable product in the future. And we are wrapping up, and we are open for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you, Borja. Thank you, Bruno. I think Bruno's typing an answer to a question, but I'll just read it out loud just so everybody can take a look at it. It says, very useful chatbot. Do you plan to take into account the negative effects chatbots can have on news organizations? For example, adding links to the answers so that users actually read articles or consume news content instead of just using the chatbots.
So in the case of Fatos, oh, sorry, Sergio. In the case of Fatos, we're only using our own data. So I think that wouldn't be a problem. And we also, but we do pose, we do answer, provide the answers with the links to the sources that they were based on. And I don't know if Borja wants to.
Yeah, we're basically doing the same. We've put a lot of effort to actually link the source of the information to the actual answer, so you know exactly which source is being used, so you can click it. So yeah, we're doing basically the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also do that in Nucleo. We also put the link in the sources there. I don't see that as an issue.
Yeah, and I think if we are to use data from other organizations, we wouldn't do it without their authorization. So
amazing. Thank you, team.